Welcome to Strictly From Nowhere, a podcast experiment brought to you by the fellas at Cause of a Kind. Each episode is by bootstrappers, for bootstrappers, featuring stories, mistakes, successes, and even some comedy all around our lifelong friendship and the journey through standing up a software development and digital marketing agency. Hey everybody. Welcome to another episode of Strictly From Nowhere. I'm your host, Justin Abrams, CEO and co-founder of Cause of a Kind, New York-based software development agency, partnering with some of the most recognizable brands on earth, helping them to navigate their digital transformation. As always, I'm joined by my dear friend and co-founder, Michael Rispoli, CTO of Cause of a Kind, and the development lead within our organization. And today, of course, as always, we're bringing on a special guest, a dear friend of ours from years past, and an individual who is pioneering in some unusual places today, Alex Benkendorf. Alex, thanks for joining us today, man. I think we know each other for quite some time, but nobody on our channel knows who you are. So tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
Hey, awesome. Thanks for having me. So I also own an agency. It's actually a branding agency for tech startups and SaaS companies. And we also do a pretty large amount of development as well. After all, after branding, we want to develop the actual solutions. And another thing, I'm also a huge fan of the newer things like VR, NFTs, blockchain, and one of my projects is a web-based metaverse, actually, where teams can assemble and you can have, nice conversations and build 3D spaces together. So,
yeah. Truly the impactful technology of the future. It's inevitable that a lot of your wheelhouse is going to become incredibly valuable to the consumer experience not so far away. And, we have a pretty packed agenda for today, so we're going to jump right on into it. And, you mentioned just now, Alex, the importance of, brand identity and, how that's really going to position brands, people, it could be anything from adventures to new ideas, and what does branding and the role of branding play in the role of the consumer journey? From my perspective, I'm a little different from you and Mike. My perspective is purely from a search marketing background, and the idea of branding within search marketing, is quite an abstract concept. It's a little bit different than claiming the visual identity of an organization. It has to do with language. It has to do with best practice to be able to qualify for an algorithm to make a decision about you and your brand that you almost have little control over. It's a little bit different when you're starting here at the inception of a brand new way that people are interacting with each other. And I'm really interested to get your take on the intersection of branding and new frontier in the space of, smart contracts, NFTs and blockchain, the availability of, tokenomics and cryptocurrency. And where do you see branding playing a significant role in this new void, we'll call it?
I think tokenomics is a word I have not heard before this moment.
Documentation.
That's a great word, yeah. Wow. Well, there are several takes on branding in any space, and I think the main word would be trust, and how trust is being generated. And we'll talk later about blockchain and smart contracts and how they technically can help generate more trust in the future. But the main thing, branding for me, it's also about not just an identity of who your entity that you're trying to brand is, as a perception of a certain type of a character towards trying to show towards the world, but it's also the idea, some kind of idea that you want to create as a character. So you're turning an idea into a character and you're trying to make this character trustworthy. So, and that's about that. So, if you mentioned the modern world of tokenization and this kind of thing, I think we have a lot of trust issues right now, even though on the same, like, as I said, smart contracts are meant to create trust, but I don't want to mix that all into one spot, because what's really important for me personally in branding and branding of tech companies is that everything is very digitalized. Everything in the market, it's very, how to say it, it's transactional. I mean, if you talk to a marketer, he would be talking to you about his CTA, like not just the CTAs, but the all the numbers, ROIs, and but not
the
about
key performance indicators, the click-through rates, right?
Absolutely.
The click rate optimization strategy.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So marketing, it's about messaging, about those numbers, about moving down the funnel. When branding is in fact how much of a character have you, like, is your character concise? Is your character trustworthy? Is your character recognizable? And what are the values that you're trying to spread? And people, especially in the startup space, they don't think about that when it has been, well, if we switch to marketing language, that a branded product is way cheaper to market, because it's is really having thought about these things even in the beginning of your branding journey of a company, or as a token, or as anything. Like, how do I want people to think about me? Like, there are simply two questions. Like, one of them is who I am deeply inside, and I am as a character, as a company, as a product. Like, why am I creating this? What am I changing in this world? And the second question is, like, how do I want to be perceived? Like, where I am now, like how I am perceived now, how I want to be perceived. And the journey between these two is branding. So, yeah, it all sounds a bit vague, but in reality, like, if we go down to brand strategy and the actual actionable items, we get the mixture. Like, we add into this mix of marketing some additional touch points. So we make sure these touch points, they all align with what we are creating. And yeah, the last idea, like, I wanted to share is I think about branding and marketing as the right and left side of the brain, really. So only uniting these two, you can get this, meme when a brain is lighting up and magic happens. So yeah.
That's interesting. Do you ever find that marketing and branding are at odds with one another, where two departments, I suppose, I think that would help people kind of start to understand a little bit of the difference, right? Is like, when do these two things actually start to clash a little bit?
They do. Once again, as I say, they might be as your, like, conscious and subconscious mind, or left side part of the brain. They're like should be aligned, but they're not always aligned. Like your feelings and your intellect, your, like, soul, or they're not always aligned, because marketers usually they want the numbers to go up, and the brand people, they should want the brand evaluation to go up, not just the brand, like the how people perceive the brand to go up. So it's, well, in my opinion, it's a little bit of short-term versus long-term kind of focus in terms of the strategy of a company.
I always find brand to be tough, because it feels like it's the kind of thing that's harder to measure. So, the marketer always comes to the meeting and says, I don't care what the brand is. The button's got to be pink, because I can get all these clicks. Look at all these clicks I can get. And they can show you all these numbers. And the branding person's like, yeah, but it's damaging in a way that I can't show you to do that, to use the wrong color scheme, to it cheapens the brand, and so to speak, and so I think that, like you said, I like the idea of left and right side, because the marketer always has all these metrics, and the brand people don't have as many metrics, but it doesn't mean it's any less important, right? I mean, when we think about brand too, sometimes we think we can control it, right? It's the story I want people to tell. But then there's the story that people actually tell. You know, like I think that I once did kind of I forget what company, you know, maybe I won't even mention the company name, but you know, the reality was they were the cheaper version of a much more popular company, but they hated hearing that in the meeting. But I'm like, but that's what everybody says about you. You know, like that's so if that's a problem, they're like, but that's not the messaging we put out. I'm like, but that is the messaging that's there. That's kind of how people think of it. And so it's sort of, it's really hard. So I think that that's the other thing, like marketers can juice the numbers, but I think once a brand story starts to go a way you don't want to, it's almost impossible to reverse because it lives in hearts and minds. It's decentralized.
Well, you know what really happens is that brands lose sight of the core brand identity because they follow hype. You know, they try to jump on whatever trend train is immediately important to them. They all jump into different spaces, topics that, you know, are quote unquote clout chasing. And what ends up happening is that organizations don't keep their eyes on the road, right, Mike? We talk about that all the time. Like if you look at the wall while you're a race car driver, you're going to hit the wall. You got to keep your eyes looking forward on the road. And brands are getting distracted. And it's easy to get distracted. You know, we're going to keep this really focused today on like, you know, the NFT space is like a very easy one to see distraction. There are brand immature businesses that are chasing the NFT strategy. That is an opportunity potentially to get rich quick. I'm not sure. Like the goal.
Well, I think it's another way to tell a story. I think that people are seeing especially if you're a product company, right? We see Adidas doing this a little bit, right? Nike getting into blockchain, crypto, NFTs. I think that for them, this is another way to deliver the message, you know, like, and you don't want to be left out of that conversation.
Those are very mature brands. We're talking immature brands, right? Like how many different Discords have popped up in the last month for some type of new coin offering, some type of new metaverse opportunity, a new NFT piece of artwork. We're talking in the order of like tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of new mintable opportunities. And all of them are a little micro brand, which is interesting, right?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Like Bored Ape and CryptoPunk. And,
Totally.
But they're all a wrinkle of the same thing. That's the thing I don't get is like, can anybody think of anything else other than like avatars? Like what the heck is going on in this space?
Has to do with branding and marketing for what the value of that item will be to your life.
Have you ever seen Exit Through the Gift Shop?
What's that?
You've never seen Exit Through the Gift Shop?
I mean, I've exited through plenty of gift shops.
All right, well, you should watch. It's a Banksy. Well, I think Banksy made the movie about a guy who filmed street artists who later became Mr. Brainwash.
Oh,
but
dude, I have seen this.
Yeah, of course you've seen it. Yeah,
I haven't.
Now I'm connecting.
You should see it. But all of his artwork was, he kind of did this big installation, but it was all, what's the word I'm looking for? But it was all just like very on its face. And the film was almost making fun of him and his art and like the way that he basically like just kind of tried to rip off things that he saw and piece them together. And he wasn't Banksy, right? You know what I mean? Like, you know, Banksy, like, you know, I mean, come on, that auction where he just shredded the piece of artwork as soon as someone bought it. What an amazing piece of art that, you know. So when I see like the potential, I've talked about this, of NFTs and metaverse, and I'm looking at what people are putting out and I'm like, okay, like you're all just trying to get rich. There's no real artists here.
Exactly.
This is not anybody trying to like, nobody is moved to make the thing that they're trying to make, right? You know, like, and that's the piece of the NFT and art world that disappoints me right now is I feel like there's no passion for it other than I just want to get on that TikTok channel where they show me in a fancy car. You know?
Well, there is some branding in that, and the branding to me, like, is the connection to certain human needs and human values. And like, if you, let's say, you're trying to connect to a story of a certain of an each person. Even if you're a small brand, once he sees you, you're trying to connect to your story to his story, and what can he share in your story? And if he sees the opportunity to get rich fast, let's say, however cheesy that is the brand, you know.
That is the story, right?
That is the story. And that's what he sees. Like, okay, there are some sleazy people who are trying to get rich fast. Maybe if I jump in real fast, I will be the first to jump off the train. I will get rich fast, and that's the brand. That's the value. That's the story. That's not, well, we don't say if it's good or bad, but that's there.
Oh yeah, it just is, right?
And it's that if it is honest, you know, like what people don't tolerate is when you're saying one thing and you're behaving or is perceived differently. Like a famous quote: "If branding is what they say about you when you exit the room." So, like, if you're trying to say one thing and you, like, we are changing the world with our NFTs kind of stuff, and you really are perceived like, you know, this hype kind of train people who are doing this thing just because it's hype and because, like, we expect you to resell, maybe you shouldn't be doing this. Maybe you say, like, that is why our value will be rising. This is why we expect the value to rise, so you can resell it, and, you know, maybe.
I can see that. I know that, yeah, like we've talked about this. The NFTs of today, like the CryptoPunk, I think there's a place for them in the sense that they're a piece of history, right? I think that becomes the long-term value of some of these NFTs, where it's like, this is the very beginning. But now, you know, I think we get into application, and where it can really represent a real piece of digital, a digital product that you really, I don't want to say want to own, but like you actually like the product, you know, like that's what I'm thinking about. Like,
yeah. My take on that, like the first NFTs were kind of a meme economy. Okay,
yes.
It was like, you know, like it's a meme, and if it's a meme, it gets some people attention, and it's fun. And now the second part was people inherently, they like to collect things, they like to own things, and the more value there is to owning a certain item and rarity to it, the more I feel it raises my personal ego above others, because I own this and you don't. And
it's like to me it's like Pokemon cards. That's what I think. I think it's adults trading Pokemon cards. That's what I think. And when you get a guy who buys it for like $5,000 or $5 million, I just imagine somebody who $5 million feels like $5 does to me buying that. It's not like they're literally telling you this thing is worth $5 million. It's just like, I have so much more money than that, I can get it.
Yeah, there's a story, a colleague of mine, they were creating NFT collections, and I think they earned several million from that or something, or close, several 100,000, probably $1 million, something like that. And most, like, 90% of success was because of the producers who were essentially branding and marketing the whole thing, creating hype, buying reviews from influencers, you know, like spreading the word. So they had this idea that, and yeah, so it's not just about creating a product, it's about marketing that. And what is how you can create your own Pokemon collection, but you should first create the Pokemon background of the importance of a Pokemon, or first you have to become this NHL, or sorry, what are these leagues called with the cards so popular in the US? First you have to create this idea of this league or sport or a Pokemon before you sell those cards. And that's what most people are missing, I think.
Yeah, well, that's like a given Pokemon card, right? I guess rarity can create value, but also I guess in the game, if you play the game Pokemon cards or Magic, let's say, the cards have different powers that are good in the game. You know, so I am interested. I just feel, you know, I do think like the cool thing about the NFT piece, because I know I come down on it pretty hard sometimes, is that it's in its infancy. So it's only like with the first time I heard about Bitcoin was because people were using it on Silk Road, right? it was not a thing to be taken seriously, right? It was, it seemed kind of weird. Now it's like, oh, you can actually use this on like online stores. You can, you can use this stuff out in the world. There's the wallets. There's an evolution. It's definitely become mainstream, right? Stripe accepts it in their payment processors. I think PayPal accepts some either Bitcoin or Ethereum, or maybe both. But I think it took a long time to come out from under the brand of like a criminal underworld currency.
And it hasn't, because it's prohibited in a lot of countries.
Yeah.
Still.
No, I could see that for sure. So it's quite interesting. And so that when I think about the NFT, when I think about the metaverse, I want to transition a little bit too, is like, and I've told Justin about this, the idea of like an art installation that you experience in VR, and then you buy that installation. It's not a JPEG. It's like a whole bunch of code. Maybe it's WebAssembly code, right? It's like I literally want to own this thing. Like I feel like the future is so much bigger than, oh, a JPEG in a wallet on your phone. It's like, oh, I'm going to get to put on my headset and go into like my digital museum and experience all this artwork I bought, the way that I would fill my house with beautiful artwork and sculptures. And they'd genuinely be things that I enjoyed, and that the people that I knew could come in and enjoy, with a Oculus or whatever. Like I'm picturing sort of like I guess it's maybe a skeuomorphic kind of thing where like the physical world meets the metaverse. But I think that's kind of the beauty of it. Maybe it's even like augmented reality, where I actually have these things hanging on my walls that like appear through some glasses that you wear when you come in my house. Like I'm always curious about what is, I want to see the value come out from under purely speculation, trading, that kind of thing.
Well, one of the projects I was referring to was the Crystals project. It's fairly popular. It has an artist from Singapore and a Russian designer uniting together. So when you sell a crystal, it grows, and it's a lot of code, and it looks visually, aesthetically pleasing. And yeah, you can Google crystals, NFT crystals, or something like this, and I don't remember the actual name. Anyway, so you have to really, like what I see now in NFTs, so there certainly should be a lot of value beyond the actual, just the picture of all the objects. So some core code, and this code probably will be growing to the kind of code that changes over time even. So it's like kind of an object is evolving, and that's what a lot of trending NFT resellers are trying to create, something that would evolve and gain value with an interest, basically, and attention with the evolvement. But frankly, I've yet to see something that is, however peculiar that is in NFT space, would be still not something, besides like an art object or a speculation object. Like I haven't seen yet anything. And this is what bothers me with the blockchain, like not in general with cryptocurrencies, is that like people are just burning electricity, burning fuel, instead of, doing the same amount of computing power to, to solve, let's say,
huge problems.
DNA to solve DNA issues or something like this. Like that would be the cryptocurrency I would value, because in the modern world and our generations that's coming after us is valuing purpose above everything else. That's where brands are becoming even more important, especially in this part of the world where we don't survive anymore, or hopefully everyone who listens to that have something to eat. So
I can totally agree. Yeah, that's another thing that gets me, right? People are like, oh, it costs about $400 in gas to make one NFT. And I think to myself, like, how long I'd have to drive my car to spend $400 in gas. I mean, I think I could make it all the way to California right now. Right? Like, it would be, it's an absurd amount of gas to spend on something like this. And so one of the interesting cryptocurrencies that I always have looked at is Cardano. It's ADA on the Coinbase, I like the mission of an environmentally friendly cryptocurrency NFT platform, if you will. They're kind of working on this idea of proof of stake versus proof of work, which would greatly reduce the cost of minting these things. That being said, there's detractors all over the place, Alex. We've seen that some people don't think it can ever happen. But it seems like they have a very strong team. They have a really, really good technology. And so there's some very smart people working there. And I think that that needs to be on people's mind, because it's very easy. I think someone even told us too, sometimes you mint an NFT and it just dies halfway through and you lose the money for the gas of minting it. It doesn't, there's situations where that can happen. So, and going to if you follow Gary Vee, I think a lot of people probably do, his kind of thing is we should be looking at this NFT game as a 10-year play, you got to go long with it because there's going to be a lot of loss in it. And we have yet to see where it's going to shake out. I mean, it would be quite funny if it shook out to nothing, right?
It's already in history. It's already where people use their brain, focus their attention. It's already something. To better or worse, that's debatable. And what's annoying, it's artificial scarcity that stands behind all of it. So there is enough things in this world that are naturally scarce, but they are physical. So, and you cannot own all land in the world, but you can digitally create your own world, and by using marketing and branding means to create this feeling of scarcity because it applies to the human psychology. And that's currently what it is. So the one that can prove that what they are doing is actually really extremely useful and propels the society forward and humanity forward, not just in terms of the bubble that you can resell that and gain more money, which is okay, I guess, but in other ways that would be a game changer. And that's what some of the metaverses, I think, are trying to kind of achieve, because they're trying to emulate the scarcity of the real world in the scarcity of the metaverse in terms of items that you have to own and not just duplicate.
Yeah. A lot of these NFTs are really leveraging the utility that they provide back to the owner. And I think that comes back to branding core values and, how does the production of that NFT open up as a resource to the owners of it or the supporters of that community. There's a really interesting, there's probably hundreds of them, but I can't be a student of every single one. So I'll give you one that I have my eye on, which is actually being curated by a dear friend of mine. It's called Crypto Docs. And what's interesting about Crypto Docs is while the artwork is going to be beautiful and, artwork, we all know what that's like currently in the NFT space. The purpose of the round of NFT to mint all of that is to raise capital to be able to bring a feature to life, right? So CryptoDocs was created by industry professionals that are doctors and that are trying to solve and break a barrier in a decentralized way, right? Create a two-sided platform connecting participants in the biopharma space, organic medicine and manufacturing space, med tech, big tech, academia, all sorts of different ways that this NFT, hopefully successful, is actually going to contribute to supporting, an already very competitive, very disruptive industry. So some of these different projects have incredibly strong utility that ultimately we're utilizing this to raise a round. It is the new version of public funding of it's truly taking your business or your project or your person public. This is the new type of crowdsource. And
that's why what's their name is doing this now. Kickstarter. They're trying to convert, but this is not new. There were these ICOs, 5 years ago or something like that, and they were a little big.
80% were scam.
And then it all turned into, right? And so I think you right. So this crypto docs is interesting because it's like a rebranding of the ICO, to NFT, because if you say ICO right now, everyone's like, whoa, rip off.
that's how I've been thinking about the crypto market. Like the coins are essentially shares that you just claim yourself.
Yep.
These are our shares, and we have a limited number of them, and you can create some, but whatever. And NFTs are essentially not just a share, but a share, like one each. Like they are separated into like more specific objects, but they're essentially the same. You're buying a thing that can be sold, and they're buying into your idea. So it's really a good idea. I wonder what kind of success they would have, because another thing, like the last thing I wanted to say about the crypto market is, I'm not sure, maybe you can, like, that's a question. I feel the crypto market is fueled by the crypto millionaires who don't, the price of money for them is so low, they can actually, play around investing into virtual dogs and whatever. So everyone is like,
saying, right?
is jumping to their, trying to jump to their, what's the musical instrument is named? So everyone is trying to get their attention of these spoiled crypto punks, and they're trying to attract their personal attention.
We call them whales.
Like I was saying, it's the person who $5 million is like $5 to them, right?
Yeah,
like
but they're not called whales; they're crypto whales. They're the people that got their money from some operation that are inherently not from the real world. Or let's say they just invested into Bitcoin or whatever on Ethereum, and they don't value their money because they cannot really also put their money anywhere else, because it's really hard to to just extract $50 million from the cryptocurrencies anywhere, really. So all they have left is to continue playing and have fun and enjoy their numbers growing. So that's why everyone in NFT and crypto space is trying to attract their attention of people who don't value money, who don't value real things, who value growth. But I may be wrong. Like, what do you think?
Well, I do. I think for a lot of people right now, I think it's thrilling. It's a lot like gambling, because like you said, like, if I get $50 million in a crypto tomorrow, like my first immediate thought is, let me get this in the S&P 500 now. Like, let me get off the roulette table, because that 50 million could go right to zero, like super quick. And I've watched my own crypto holdings up and down, right? But I've never invested more than I'm willing to lose. And I guess some people say they always invest that way, but nowadays, right, you kind of have to invest everything. You can't put all your money in savings. Nobody's making any money in savings anymore. The CDs are worthless. Like it's what people are doing is, they do more secure investments. But what I kind of see is, like, I am starting to see like hedge funds and investment firms try to create a crypto fund. And I imagine they're desiring stability. They're not looking to be like, yeah, I got you in Dogecoin, made you $100 million on Wednesday, lost it all by Friday. Like that's not a great story to tell your client. I think they're looking for a way to find where that curve, what is the S&P 500 of crypto assets? It's probably like Bitcoin and Ethereum right now, and a little blend of other higher risk coins in there. But
it would actually be investing in Coinbase or Binance or FTX exchange. Like, that would be your S&P. But like, who's your Tesla stock or your Apple stock? That's going to be your Bitcoin or your Ethereum.
I will bet you that Coinbase releases a blended fund soon. I could imagine that's on their roadmap to be like somebody has to be the vanguard of crypto, right? Where it's like, hey, I'm not going to pick and choose. Like, when I invest, I use Betterment. I don't pick and choose individual stocks. I let Betterment's algorithms handle that for me. I would love that kind of situation where, like, Coinbase has like a, maybe I'm just not using it right. Maybe that's what people are going to comment. They're like, that's already there, dude. Like, where I'm like, listen, I just want to be in the crypto fund.
And if it doesn't exist, we can build it.
That is correct. I'm gonna keep throwing money at it, but I know that it kind of always goes up. It goes up and down, but it's like the S&P, where it's like, if I'm not looking to withdraw right now, this is a great long-term place. Crypto will never. I mean, it hasn't been around long enough, like the stock market. So I'm sure there's always a higher risk, but I would imagine for some time there is. We run some algorithms on this stuff. You could find a nice blend of coins that would yield you a nice steady income. Maybe instead of the traditional 10%, you could make 15 to 20% on your money or something like that, which is like nice. You're not going to be a millionaire in a year, but you're going to feel pretty good by in a few years. So that's my thinking is there's a lot of utility there.
Yeah, like I like that in every market you get the fractals of the like you got innovators, you got early adopters, you get the CHARs, and then you have the early majority. So and the crypto market is still as a whole in the innovators and early adopters, of course, but within that you can go deeper and you can go to popular things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and some of the things, but there are so many things where innovators can also so it segregates into levels, I'd say. So it's I think that it's easy to I guess maybe the word could be like jealousy, right? Like you see somebody who made $50 million for doing nothing, right? Like, you see it like a young person put some amount of money into a coin. They've made, however, millions and millions of dollars. But, the thing that I always try and keep in mind is, and for people who are like looking at this industry, like, man, I wish that would happen, is that person probably will lose all of that the same way. Like the same thing that drove them to put their last $1,000 down on Dogecoin is going to be the thing that drives them to put that whole $50 million down on the Dogecoin that didn't work. Yeah.
They will lose. It's like a lifetime gambler, right? The house always wins, but you only hear about the one time they went to Vegas and walked away with a ton of money. You don't hear about how they went to Atlantic City the following weekend and lost it all again. So I think that in this realm, that's where I want to kind of stay away from that, like the hype side of the industry, because I don't think that's where the puck is going. And you will lose more times than you win doing that. So as a business where I'm trying to build a sustainable business and I have employees that rely on me, I'm not about to go take all my business funds and dump them into an NFT project, but I am looking for what's something, like I said, this, I think that this is the coin that you mentioned, Justin, I think is kind of interesting, right? The crypto docs, where I'm not trying to ride just a wave. I'm actually investing in a valuable thing, a thing I believe in. I think that's why Cardano appealed to me, right? It's like, it's not so much the coin. I just believe in what they're trying to do. It's very clear, like an environmental focus for me is something that I think is a noble thing. I think Bitcoin doesn't have the same brand to me, actually. It's kind of tainted a little bit. Maybe I'm tainted by that movie, The Social Network, and knowing those two twins were behind it, right? And it just kind of, it rubs me the wrong way. The whole thing, Bitcoin itself rubs me the wrong way. Maybe the whole movie is fake. Oh, no, I have Bitcoin. No, don't get me wrong. I'm okay
since 2010?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
I didn't purchase it when you could only purchase it on Silk Road, or when that was like the way to obtain it. I did know someone that bought it then. But that person had rich family, right? So they were able to do that.
At what Bitcoin price did you get in, Mike?
Oh, for me, it was really high. I actually went into Ethereum so I got in once I got into Bitcoin when Ethereum broke out. I got into Ethereum not at the very beginning, but it was probably between $50 and $80, somewhere in that realm, because I liked the idea of logic being included in the product. So I very clearly saw the value. I said, oh, this is better than Bitcoin. Bitcoin was merely a currency. Ethereum is a platform. And so that's why I invested in it. And here we are today. It's very, but now everybody's talking about Ethereum, but going back all those years ago, Bitcoin was all the rage, right? But it really, I felt like the utility of Bitcoin was very limited. I do still feel like the government was probably gearing to squash, like I just didn't think it could overcome all the things that it needed to, right? Like people like, oh, it'll free us from government economies. I was like, that machine's been in motion for a long time. Like I do not think you're going to like beat the Fed with decentralized currency and maybe in countries where the currency is super volatile, but I don't think that we're going to see like the US dollar get knocked off by Bitcoin like, in my lifetime, maybe in 2 lifetimes. I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime, but I do see Ethereum being huge. I think that the idea of a platform that can be used in more than one place is important.
I also think the idea of a global currency, right? Like US dollar really kind of sets the global economic system, but is there a currency that sets the global economic system? And it could be something.
US dollar.
Yeah, but it could be something
US dollar.
Right. Yeah. It could be a decentralized motion, though. It's possible that it doesn't even exist today.
Well, stablecoin, right? Like this is another big project. Like, I think stablecoin is huge. Like, Justin, we talked about a few projects where the project doesn't make sense if the value of the asset can drop day to day. Like you need a coin that's like, hey, it's $1, like Tether. It's worth $1.
Yeah. The one that's attached to the dollar. But it saddens me that besides Ethereum, like Bitcoin and Ethereum, the third one that is on everyone's minds, and it's like the most hyped one is Dogecoin, like meme economy. Once again, it's just for the fun of it.
Because Shiba.
That's everyone was like, get into Shiba.
Hey, I'm not aware. Can you tell me a story briefly?
Shiba Inu. You can go become a crypto billionaire right now for like $200. It's the greatest thing ever. No, it's another meme asset. It's like a volatile coin. Actually, it's like doing pretty okay over like the last 2 years, but it really honestly is part of the Doge generation. I'm not really too sure of like the applicable utility. I don't really know of too many projects. I know of collaborations across meme coins and like, then you get back to like raising capital and who knows what they're going to do with it. I'm not really sure. I'm not going to speak to it. I definitely own too much Shiba Inu just because it's cheap.
But wait, why are you not a billionaire?
If it hits, I might be, but that's like where you have money to throw away and like you want to put it on something silly and you never know how. I just haven't become a student of that particular coin as much so as like, the Cardano, for example, right? Because it just meets the needs of our mission. And, I don't think Shiba Inu and like meme state is really going to get the job done for us as an engineering house. But
it's just leaving some money on the roulette table. You played a few numbers, maybe you hit, maybe you don't. Those
are the best nights in Vegas, buddy.
I just always remember though, what do I say? I say getting rich is rare, right? Getting rich is rare. It's not, if it was easy and everybody could do it, the value of being rich would immediately be, you'd all kind of, the baseline keeps moving up, right?
There's no
like
magic
if everybody makes $1 million in the whole world on Shiba Inu tomorrow, that's only buying you what you have today because the whole world can't let everybody get
exactly.
a mansion.
That's not new. Like the people who got rich because they got in first, they put in their own personal risk of this thing versus all other things that they could have gone with. And the people that are coming after them, that they're just trying to follow the trend. And the people coming up to them and NFTs, like once again, the successful projects I have, to be successful, they worked a lot. And that was still pretty high risk, high reward kind of thing. But they still, like what I was saying is, let's say 4 months of full-time job of a team of programmers, marketers, like best minds of their like generation as such to win, to create this NFT project that would earn them actual pretty hefty income. But, well, doesn't that remind it something? Yeah. Work. Right. Yeah. So that's like what everyone is. Okay, this is high risk, still high risk, high reward, and it's fueled by the generation that is, going into meme coins. But still, like if you're not the first one, or if you want to go first and get rich quick, okay, go into extremely high risk, extremely high reward kind of thing. But it's still, don't forget about the extremely high risk part. So
Well, I think right now the average blockchain engineer is going to make more than the average NFT holder. So if you really want to know where to invest in learning how to build the technology.
you sound old and boring, Mike.
Well, a Solidity engineer gets paid very well. I do see the job postings now, which is so funny, where people are like, yeah, we want experienced Web3 people. I'm like, I don't think there are really experienced Web3 people.
But that is amazing, it's amazing. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I was thinking, oh my God, the world changed so fast. So many new ways, new kind of engineering, not just engineering, but so many new types of
Just skill sets in
skill sets appear that that can be used in the market. So many new things, and I was thinking that would be static, but no, that continued to change. And there are every year there's a new kind of hype. It was every couple of years. The waves are becoming even higher and faster, even in this regard. So you can jump to NFTs, and then you can jump to blockchain, blockchain NFTs, VR a time ago, and now it's metaverse kind of things. Every company is hiring metaverse officers right now, chief virtual officers. This is crazy. Who would have thought that? This
What
is
is that?
cyberpunk,
Yeah, what is-
cyberpunk kind of things. Yeah, all huge companies. They don't know, but they investing in this. And I want a person with 20 years of metaverse experience on my team, please.
Can I just mint myself, and then companies can just bid, right? Oh, actually, I quit. Somebody else just decided to pay me more yesterday. You just that's it. You should moving.
Interesting use of the smart contract,
Right. Yeah.
Ride the waves and enjoy the ride. So
isn't it easy to forget too? Anytime I watch one of these kind of old movies about Steve Jobs building the Macintosh or the iPhone or the early days of the internet, there's a show Halt and Catch Fire that's them building the early computer, and each season they kind of go through these kind of revolutions that really happened. And it's so easy to sit here and think oh, well, it stinks. We missed all of that. It's all gone. But really, like you said, you're in a wave. It's just bigger. And the reason I kind of like to approach it in a sense like a skeptic, because I think that a lot of the people who I think are super into this space, they're really hyped up. They're super excited. They're looking at where everybody is right now. But the thing that's going to make it big, nobody's thought of yet. It's still in the metaverse, so to speak, right? Yet, if you believe everything's already been discovered, right? Of all time has already been existent, right? Somewhere in the ether is the big idea, the big application for crypto, and not just there's more than one. I just don't think we've hit it yet. But I think a lot of people are spending a lot of time and attention trying to figure that out. I think that you see a lot of the big VC firms investing kind of in projects that are a little bit theoretical, because you just need to get groups of really smart people together and get them thinking about this stuff in different ways and exciting ways. And outside of how do I get really rich, just how do I create a massive utility? I think that's there's a couple of ways, right? Getting rich from taking a high risk position. But there's also the idea of building something that helps the most people, right? I think there's a classic kind of the analogy, right? Why does the doctor only get paid this much for a surgery and the baseball player get paid this much for hitting a ball? Well, more people pay to watch the baseball player than the surgeon. I bet you a surgeon that wanted to do surgery on TV probably make pretty good money too, if the patient agreed to it. It's sort of I think that there's the idea of creating massive utility, massive enjoyment for people is another kind of is a more consistent pathway, I would say, as opposed to trying to just ride risk. So I'm super into your product. What I think is cool about what you're trying to do for the metaverse is you're trying to make it easier for remote organizations. So you're using the vehicle of the metaverse to provide utility, which is, what did we lose when we all went remote? Well, we lost interpersonal relations. We lost the ability to tap each other on the shoulder. I talk to Justin all the time. Our junior engineers suffer immensely from not being able to ask questions and not being able to just sit with somebody and learn from them. And that's a pretty big loss in remote cultures. I think senior engineers are loving it, right? They're doing their thing, they're living at home, and they're able to create a lot of personal value out of their lives with their families. But if you're kind of new to a field, this is still a really tough thing. Or if you're just an extroverted person, this is a really difficult thing too.
Yeah, well, well, by the way, like our project, a few words about that. It's not just about teams and team culture, which, by the way, is really like, I just talked to a friend of mine who's a junior developer. He was trying to cry out to senior developers that don't give him enough information. So this is very real. But what I think is lacking in the universal communication, it's also focused on just dopamine inducing attention, let's put it this way, and not the fulfillment of the human needs, like in terms of like culturally, like help to create communities, help to create culture, to support it, to help get the feeling of purpose and things like this. So these are the things I'd like personally to explore, trying to recreate in the virtual environment versus the usual social culture, which is very, political in a way.
Yeah. Well, fellas, as we come to an end here, there's really the best thing to do is to really roll out the red carpet for you, Alex. We'd love to hear what you've got going on, where people can find you, and ultimately maybe a prediction for the short-term future for whatever you're working on.
Well, there are a few things. Like one of the trends I can see is there are some companies, of course, and there always would be, that are creating projects just for the hype, just for those people who value just the numbers and, like be the first one to jump on and the first one to jump off. But there are other companies, and I can see a lot of them coming, especially a way that try to connect the digital world to humanity and human needs, and trying to make this work together and be genuine about that, and generate this as a sort of as a trust, as a way to create communities that actually help. And it's not just words. I mean, I really see that happening genuinely. So people of our generation, the generation after us, are coming to these huge companies and are trying to transform those companies into the new ways of being purposeful, of generating trust, and like making tech more human. This is my mission, and I think even like if we're talking about the cyberpunk type of thing happening, like evil corporation of the future, like taking all humanity from humans, I can see both things are happening at once. I can see that technologies be trying to become more human, and I wish for that thing to generate more interest and income than everything else, so that there would be more investment coming into that. And that's actually my prediction. I can see a lot of I can see a lot of people coming into this world trying to change, like they're like the pioneers, opening new lands, creating products, and that really help. So that is my take.
Very good take. Couldn't be more aligned with the Cause of a Kind mission. We kind of specialize and focus really on social economical problems and the environment. That's kind of really like what we just believe in here as a company ethos. But yeah, man, great mission. Alex, thanks for always being a friend of Cause of a Kind, and thanks for joining us on the episode today. Mike, thank you as always for participating in the conversation, and take care, everybody. Peace out.